a lot of the story
Simula na tayo, simula na.
became, socialized and brought into the movement. There were kind of breaks along the way.
In late 1938, after these 3 years of procedure, the SS officially permitted the wedding of Lucy to reconstruct the house. She gave birth to a daughter in the spring of 1939. Like all newborns, her baby was monitored by the midwives. As public servants appointed by the Third Reich, they had to inform their superiors of any malformations or handicaps.
That was immediately registered in the system, as well as the vulnerability of that person for the rest of his or her life. It would be part of the machinery of this campaign of what they call euthanasia.
Pauline Kneißler was one of the backbones of this policy, deployed in top secrecy in the spring of 1939. She was involved in the extermination campaign of the physically and mentally handicapped, both adults and children, a campaign which would go down in history as Action T4. She was in her 40s, an experienced nurse and a member of the Nationalist Socialist Women's League and the Nazi Party.
A representative from the Chancellery made us swear an oath of secrecy and obedience. Our involvement was entirely voluntary. Those who didn't agree could withdraw. But not one of us expressed the slightest objection to the programme.
So laga muna tayo itlog. Tapos ito naman yung may chicken bouillon. Tsaka nilagyan ko na rin ng konting nor para chicken talaga siya.
Nurses began to see them more as problems than as people who needed to be taken care of or cured, which should be the priority of any health and care establishment. To them, these were people who needed to be kept away from society and then exterminated to prevent them from procreating. Pauline Kneißler and her closest colleagues visited institutions for the handicapped with a list of names of patients to be taken to killing centres. Once they had received their selection orders, they personally took care of those people. They helped them pack their belongings, explaining that they were moving elsewhere. Of course, they
Lagyan natin ng konting patis.
They made up explanations of what was going to happen. And these people were taken to industrial killing centers where they were gassed.
Hintayin natin kumulo. Tapos lalagyan natin yung manok.
The gas chambers were first used. Notably at Grafeneck and Hadamar, where Pauline Kneißler was posted. The nurses were so involved that they practically escorted their patients into the changing room next to the gas chamber. Pauline Kneißler also performed lethal injections. She admitted as much after the war.
I was never cruel to anybody. We had been told that each creature had the right to a charitable death.
Up until the end of the war, almost 200,000 people, children and adults, were exterminated as part of Action T4. This was the first mass murder carried out by the Third Reich, and women played a central part.
Good. They're really good listening to each other.
at my dad's house, doing some writing. I should be working out more. I just feel like I'm drowning.
Navigating these times can be tough, but while you care for your loved one, you also need to care for yourself. Go to
malapit na siya kumulo.
AARP.org/caregiving for free mental health and self-help tips.
I don't think that many kids in my son's
So yung manok, hinugasan na natin.
He makes fun of his friends and games.
Ito yung noodles, oh. Dapat egg noodles, pero noodles to pwede ito pang mami. Napa, cabbage, tsaka carrots. Ito yung panggisa. Gigisa natin yan. Yung isa naman yung para baon bukas. So ito yung itlog. Dinagdagan ko lang ng konting tubig para talaga mag-boil na mag-boil siya. So ito, malapit na siyang kumulo. Pakukuluin lang muna natin siya. Tayo natin siyang kumulo. Dami na mahugasin. Hello po. Hello po dyan sa nanonood. Salamat sa iyo sa nanonood dyan. Magluluto tayo ng chicken mami. Yan. So since walang chicken broth,
Schedule regular calls to fight isolation. Finally, take care of yourself too. Follow the Centers for Disease Control's guidelines for coronavirus safety. For more caregiving tips, visit AARP.org/caregiving.
On September the 1st, 1939, German women watched their husbands, brothers and sons go off to war in Poland. They were now called on to leave their homes for a new
so
world.
kumukulo na, lagay na natin yung manok.
As the heat began, when war broke out, it caused a big change in women's lifestyles. The majority of men were enlisted. But they only felt torn between upholding authority, with women doing their utmost to have children, and necessity. From then on, Germany needed a new workforce to replace the men who had gone to war.
So medium heat lang natin siya, medium heat.
Women wouldn't merely take the places of men in the fields and factories of the Reich. They would take an active part in the policy of expansion and colonization of newly conquered lands. Melita Maschmann had climbed the ranks of the BDM, the female branch of the Hitler Youth. She was now a leader herself. Like 19,000 of her comrades, she was dispatched to Poland. Melita was brimming with enthusiasm.
We believed that now, at last, Germany's historic hour had come to. Our existence at that time was for us like a great adventure. We felt that we'd been summoned to take part in a difficult and noble service, by which we believed ourselves to be fulfilling our duty towards the Reich.
Lagyan natin ng konting celery para maglasa at mahumoy.
After a
Konting
month of
carrots.
fighting, the German army occupied the western
Si
part of
pampalasa.
Poland.
Tapos
The eastern part was controlled by the Soviet Union
Sibuyas.
under Stalin, a result of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Melita was appointed leader of a group which was taking part in the Germanization of a region of western Poland called Vaterland by the Third Reich.
It became very quickly clear that Poland was going to be a place in which radical measures were going to be taken, where Nazi power would be able to, as it were, rule without any hindrance. So Poland became
Mga 30 minutes
a
yan.
laboratory for Nazi colonization and Germanization. And of course, all this was at the expense of the native Polish population and the Jewish population.
SS units evicted them. Melita, impassive, described one of the raids in her memoirs.
One morning we were brought down to bed for a clean-up operation. The SS officer told me he didn't have enough men to carry it out successfully.
Hello dyan sa mga nanonood. Hello po.
Had to be ready to leave. Each family was restricted to taking one wagon load of belongings. I heard them protesting sadly and furiously, but I calmly turned my back on them.
Was given the job of installing, in the homes from which Poles and Jews have been evicted, minorities of Germanic origin from the Baltic states and Romania. These young women were also tasked with teaching these distant Germanic cousins how to become good Germans. Overnight, young, inexperienced women found themselves in positions of authority.
There were students who wrote enthusiastic reports about how they felt, I feel like a demigod here. I feel empowered. I am here on the ground. I will give orders. There was, if you like, a cult of political will.
The Jews that had been evicted by the Nazis were locked up in ghettos. They struggled to survive in inhuman conditions. Notably in the city of Lodz. Some BDM members would visit the ghetto on their days off, as if it were a tourist attraction.
It was a bit like going to the zoo. Only here it was to see a human population thought of as exotic, sometimes scary, and often scorned. Some women were simply stunned and shocked and, I think, horrified. But there were others who were, I'm sure, actively anti-Semitic, for whom the spectacle of the Jews crammed together in the ghetto did fuel and confirm prejudices that they had been absorbing already.
Melita Mashman, who a few years earlier had had fun stamping her feet to intimidate the Jewish population in Berlin, suppressed all compassion for those suffering the horrors of the ghettos. She was now a supporter of the murderous policy the Third Reich was about to implement.
It's atrocious, but the destruction of Jews is a sad fact to which we must become resolved, if we want the Vaterland to become permanent.
thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. So if you want to count your kids, you have to get it trendy.
Visit talkaboutbaking.org for tips on when and how to have a good talk.
If I could be you could be me for just 1 hour. We could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, you signs and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
I think it's just paper with flavor.
See? Ulo lang natin ng 30 minutes yan. So, meron na tayong almost 15 minutes.
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
So, 15 minutes. Ayan o.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will
So, magmami tayo.
reading yours. Learn
Yung dati isang beses natikman ko na yun eh. Isang beses lang natikman ko na.
Nazi Poland, tested in Poland since 1939, would suddenly step up a gear early in the summer of 1941 and stretch eastwards.
So, hello dyan po. Kamusta?
On June the 22nd,
Pa na lang natin ulit. Kasi susunod na natin itong wiki.
and invaded eastern Poland and then the USSR. In the wake of the German army, which was advancing at lightning speed across Soviet territory, almost 500,000 women crossed the frontiers of the Reich. Not just members of the BDN and specialists in Germanization went east. They were also secretaries, nurses, and wives of SS officers. Among them was Annette Schuking. Age 21, the brilliant student who wanted to defend human rights saw her position as a legal intern blocked due to the democratic leanings of her family. To earn some points with the regime, she volunteered as a nursing assistant. In the train taking her to Ukraine with her new colleagues, Annette discovered the true nature of the war.
At one point, everyone took out their packed breakfast and started eating. And while they were doing so, 2 soldiers told them they had killed some Jews. With no emotion, coldly, that shocked the 4 women. The worst thing for my mother was that 2 soldiers weren't even afraid of being arrested. They were telling this terrible story in front of complete strangers in the compartment with impunity.
A war of extermination unfurled in the east. As the German army advanced, Jewish men, women, and children were massacred. In Ukraine, on September the 29th and 30th, 1941, more than 33,000 people were shot dead in the Babi Yar ravine near Kyiv by the SS death squads, the Einsatzgruppen. Annette was posted 150 kilometers from Kiev, in the city of Zviahel, to run a soldiers' hostel. On her arrival, she took some photos. Before the war, more than half the population of the city was Jewish. Now, there reigned a strange atmosphere and an unusual calm.
Yes, an older officer told her there are no more Jews in the city. Not a single one. And then he showed her the execution sites.
Almost 75,000 people had already been executed in the region since the start of the invasion. The young nursing assistant was plunged into the horror.
She wrote to her mother, "Dear Mum, if you knew what was going on here, you wouldn't last one day. But I have no idea how to leave this place. I can't find any way out. Because you need a very good reason to be sent home."
Annette did not betray her feelings. In front of her colleagues and the soldiers, she kept her despair to herself. She didn't trust them. She knew she was surrounded by murderers.
People who have no moral inhibitions exude a strange odour. I can now pick out these people, and many of them really do smell like blood.
And yet, a few days after Christmas 1941, Annette dared to speak her mind to a non-commissioned officer, Sergeant Frank.
He told her he would soon take part in a firing squad. He had volunteered so he could earn a small, rapid promotion. Mama was horrified that he would openly tell her something like that. In the end, she said to him, "Please don't do it. You'll never be able to sleep again if you do." When she next saw him, a few days or weeks later, he said, "You are right."
Annette was intent on keeping a trace of the crime she was unable to prevent. In her diary she wrote,
December the 28th, 1941. Sergeant Frank received the order to shoot 6,000 Jews, with 20 other men during the coming week. Human lives are no longer worth anything.
From then on, she wrote down all the information she was privy to keep a record of the ongoing crimes.
June the 6th, 1942. Last Thursday, 3,000 Jews were rounded up in the night and transported
Lagay na natin tong
40 kilometers
dalawa.
away and shot by the SS and Ukrainian militiamen.
She noted down the numbers of the military precincts, wrote her accounts in few words only, for fear of
Dalawa
someone
muna.
discovering her diary. And at one moment, she wrote to her parents, "Please keep my letters and my photos in a safe place." And I think that gave her strength to get through that period.
Would I say I'm ready to be executed? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be that big deal. We were dedicated to killing Nazis.
2 minutes.
That's what we volunteered for.
Mas maganda 5 minutes or 3 minutes, man.
If you thought curvy space and time was weird, you've heard nothing yet.
Hello, Ma'am Elizabeth. Hello po. Hello din po. Salamat po sa pagbate. Salamat sa pagbati. Nagluluto po tayo ng mami. Mami. Nandiyan pa, nasa loob pa yung manok po. Mga 10 minutes pa, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Kamusta po kayo? Kamusta po kayo? Wadu! Oh, salamat. Mami, inano lang natin yung mami muna. Habang nagkakape po. Hello po, shoutout po sa inyo. Tapos yung mga natitira ko, igigisa ko na lang iba. Gisa, diba? Ginisang cabbage. Mga nasa trabaho yung mga kasama ko. Kapatid ko, nanay ko nasa trabaho, kaya ako magluluto ngayon. Kamusta po kayo? Kamusta?
No, I've been staying at my dad's place because of everything. He's good. Yeah, I know, we keep missing each other. I've been working out of my dad's house, doing some reading. I should be working out more. I just feel like I'm drowning.
Navigating these times can be tough, but while you care for your loved one, you also need to care for yourself. Go to aarp.org/caregiving for free mental health and self-help tips.
Bouillon's mass executions continue. The occupation authorities set up their headquarters in the conquered territories. And with them,
Kamusta po?
secretaries who would play a pivotal role in the exploitation of the surviving Jewish populations in the ghettos.
3 minutes nga lang. Hango na.
In Liga, 19-year-old Lieselotte Meyer assisted the district commissioner, the highest German civilian authority in the city. Far from the small town,
Hanguin lang natin. Hello dyan sa mga nanonood. Salamat po dyan sa nanonood.
Her daughter, Annegret, discovered Lieselotte's past after her death.
Having a high status was very important to my mother. She always wanted to rise above her social rank, our social rank.
Sie war 20,
At 20, 22, 24 years old, you still have a lot of dreams.
auch noch viele.
Mas maganda siya talaga egg noodles.
Ja.
She didn't want to be in a factory job. She was seeking more social mobility, higher pay. The pay was better in the East. It was more dangerous there. She must have been someone who wanted a little adventure, and had that kind of gumption.
These women in their 20s were still unmarried and without children. The world was their oyster. They wanted to build a career, and they saw themselves in some way as pioneers, as precursors. In the Lida ghetto, the district commissioner had set up workshops where Jews were subjected to forced labor.
Hanguin lang natin siya. Hello dyan. Kamusta po kayo dyan?
Textile workers, carpenters,
Comment lang. Comment lang.
mechanics, in good health and aged between 15 and 60.
Lieselotte Meyer was a classic example of a secretary placed in the terror. She was responsible for producing those labor ID cards.
Nahirapan pa tayo eh.
Tickets to survival. So as an administrator, she had that power of life and death with that card, and a selection of who could be sorted out to be killed, to be shot.
Malapit na yung manok natin, malapit na.
The young secretary was present at meetings where mass executions were organized. Her job was to coordinate with the local police and the SS. On several occasions, she even attended executions.
She didn't have a reputation as being this sadistic, very visibly violent person. She was a very efficient administrator and callous to the extent that she didn't care about the fate of the Jews, and that's what makes her an accomplice in my mind.
Having become the mistress of her superior, Hermann Handmail, she not only had access to the safe where he kept valuable items confiscated from Jews, but she also exploited the ghetto workers for her own profit.
They used to go through the workshops together, Lizelota and Hermann. They would just pick out things. It was like a courtship. It was a shopping trip. If they wanted special jewelry, a fur coat, they could order these things at whim.
Dann habe ich eben so Glas.
I have these coasters stamped Leader Joinery Workshop.
Holzwerkstätten wieder, also das ist
They were clearly made in the ghetto.
Ghettoarbeit, die wurden
She used them all her life.
benutzt.
For Hermann and Lizelot, the Jews constructed a swimming pool at the villa. This Jewish servants treated them with cakes and delicacies, you know, what they call post-coital treats. I mean, they didn't care, you know, about remaining private, as it were, in front of the Jewish laborers.
Sie hatte geschrieben, als
She talked about going for sleigh rides.
die Fahrten.
She was very nostalgic about the period. For sure, they were the happiest days of her life.
The Jews of the
Hello po, hello. Kamusta kayo dyan? Kamusta?
During the next phase of the genocide that was being planned, the final solution. The women of the right, far from being mere eyewitnesses or accomplices, would play a central, deadly role behind the fences of the camps and within the intimacy of SS families.
Hindi na lang, malapit na.
best place because of everything.
Bouillon. Navigating these times can be tough, but while you care for your loved one, you also need to care for yourself. Go to aarp.org/caregiving for free mental health and self-help tips.
Under the Third Reich, hundreds of thousands of women took up active service within the regime. Their names were Hildegard, Hertha, Liesel, Erna. During the Second World War, these secretaries, doctors, wives of SS officers or concentration camp guards participated in the criminal policies carried out by the Nazis. Accomplices, and in some cases murderers, they were essential cogs in the wheel of the regime, at the very heart of the Holocaust.
Egg slice. Check.
The Netherlands, 1942. Gertrude Slotker, a 40-year-old secretary and member of the Nazi Party, worked in the German occupation administration.
Naalala ko to dati. Nagparisan ako.
She was a linchpin in the Jewish Affairs Department.
Nagtrabaho ko sa Parisan. Totoo lang, nagpatrabaho ako sa Parisan.
This administration, set up in all the countries occupied by the Third Reich, was in charge of organizing the deportation of millions of European Jews to concentration and extermination camps as part of the final solution.
Kulong-kulo ka naman ah.
Quickly assumed responsibilities.
This came about because his superior left a sort of vacuum. He was not often present. So she took
Kulong-kulong ka
advantage of
naman
the
ah.
situation in a very classic way. And
Grabe yung
took over in order to
pagka-native mo,
fulfill her own
lutong-luto.
ambitions and implement her own ideas.
Yan.
Gertrude Slotker regularly visited Westerbork, the Netherlands' main transit camp, from where most of the Dutch deportation convoys towards concentration and extermination camps departed.
See? Ayos yan. Dahan-dahan lang.
Es gibt Überlebende, die davon berichten. Certain survivors told how she came and went in the camp like a bat, always with a briefcase in hand.
Up. Dahan-dahan lang.
One described her as being like a ghost. Zlotka's job was to fill the trains in accordance with the instructions she had.
Armed with forms drawn up upon their arrival, Gertrude Slotker called in the prisoners one by one. She decided which Jews were to be given a respite because they were still useful to the German war industry. The others were in danger
Yung isa maganda pagkaka-slice ko.
48 hours.
The decisions that she was making were being made simultaneously all over Europe who played German, but by men.
Yeah.
The fact that she's a woman is very unusual and rare.
She was known for her incredible social coldness towards the people she dealt with on a daily basis. During the organization of deportations,
She generally proved to be implacable and decided upon deportation.
You could say that the role was a Schreibtischtäter or a desktop
Lagay lang natin ito sa
man giving orders from behind a desk that were ultimately costing people lives.
veteran sculptor, dedicated herself tirelessly to her morbid work. She had no qualms about making her radical views known in high places.
2 minutes lang, 2
On
minutes.
several occasions, she went to Berlin and advocated stricter regulations. She remained at her post until the last deportation convoy left Westerbork, the one carrying Anne Frank and her family. Transit camps like Westerbork were antechambers of death. Active at all stages of the murderous policies of the Third Reich, women were also at work at the very heart of the genocide, in the concentration and extermination camps. The Dutch resistance fighter, Selma van der Peer, was deported to Ravensbrück, 80 kilometers from Berlin. At the age of 98, she remembers her arrival at the only women's camp in the concentration system.
Outside the male guards, SSs, and women guards, they were shouting, snel, 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 quick, 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 out, out, and they were having
Ayos na.
sticks, and so everybody was very much in a hurry, didn't dare to do anything. The women, they were in grey uniform, that's why we call them mice. You try to behave, you try to do what you were told to do, but then everybody else did. Because if they didn't, we could be killed.
Only drawings produced covertly, in particular those of Violette Rougier-Lecoq, who was also deported to Ravensbrück, show the role of the female guards at the camp, omnipresent and threatening, with their capes and dogs.
People have no idea how much NASA has impacted their lives.
This shrimp is coloring.
Set aside na natin yun.
Wake up and drift across the flight deck.
Check. Ready na ang ating mami. Cabbage nipa, tsaka carrots. Sunod natin yung manok.
Twins, Dick and Phil run the workshop. There ain't a military machine out there they can't fix. Instead, he developed missions outside of the norm that went against the rules of New Spain. These places of worship were hidden in the mountain ranges to the north. All religious aspects and spirituality
Ireland and
as Jenny Carter in this life in 1978 on maternity leave.
that even the pannier horses perished in it.
Tumor that grew on his chest.
Not really. Hindi lahat. No, not really. But what do you have to do with him? Just chop the chicken.
Riding up to Kilpatrick was Captain Ulrich Dahlgren, who found his way around these trains. Dahlgren asked Kilpatrick if he could lead an attack on Potomac Street. Kilpatrick heartily agreed, calling up squadrons of the 18th Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Layo. Oh, thank you.
Two are here. Yes, you're doing that, Shane. That
And no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. You can create your new bath or shower customized just for you. Installed in just 1 day from the most trusted
Chop
name.
like this one
Bath remodel. Call now.
and make some ham chicken mami. Egg noodles. Some kind of egg noodles, the small one, and then the egg slice, scallion, napa cabbage, and then carrots. So preparing that, the soup, the chicken soup. It's already I made.
Oh wow, that's really nice. So how about I just give you this highlights?
I'm not good in cooking.
Robbery and the murder connect. James
Elite. Very elite.
NCIS is all new CBS Tuesday, 7 Central, and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Todd agreed on the spot to accept U.S. assistance. When one of his advisors urged him not to rush into a decision, the king replied, "The Kuwaitis did not rush into a decision, and today they are guests in our hotels." Acting on the policy of the Carter Doctrine,
Not really.
feared the
Just like
Iraqi
that.
army could launch an invasion of Saudi Arabia.
See this
US
one?
President George H.W. Bush quickly
Just like
announced
that.
the U.S. would launch
Like a strip,
only
yeah.
offensive mission to prevent Iraq from invading
Not to slice
Saudi Arabia.
strips, just like that.
I ask for your support in the decision I've made to stand up for what's right and condemn what's wrong, all in the cause of peace. In my direction, elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, as well as key units of the United States Air Force, are arriving today to take up defensive positions in Saudi Arabia.
At the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, General Schwarzkopf gave the order to begin the most massive and rapid movement of military forces in history. On August 9th, after a 14-hour flight, a group of 24 F-15s from the 1st Fighter Wing at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, touched down at Saudi airfields. As the
Yes, thank you.
F-15s began their round-the-clock air patrols, the first units of the 82nd Airborne Division arrived in Bahrain and began setting up defensive positions. By the 13th, a full brigade was in place. The soldiers of the 82nd harbored no illusions about their capability. They were woefully outnumbered. The Sky Troopers were nose to nose with 130,000 Iraqis, 1,200 tanks, and 800 artillery pieces. If Saddam had ordered an attack, the 82nd would have had little to do
Let me show you
but
first.
playing action and hope for a rescue. The troops referred to themselves as Iraqi speed bumps. Colin Powell called the American presence planting a flag in the sand. At sea, the U.S. Navy mobilized 2 naval battle groups, the aircraft carriers USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and USS Independence, and their escorts to the area, where they were ready by August 8th. The U.S. also sent the battleships USS Missouri.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
To the region. Military buildup continued from there, eventually reaching 543,000 troops, twice the number used in the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Much of the material was airlifted or carried to the staging areas via fast sea-lift ships, allowing a quick buildup. Putting U.S. forces there was a risk. The U.S. did not have the supplies or support crews to fight effectively if pressed. While the president and his advisors bluffed about the power on the ground and the efficiency of the deployment, chaos reigned. Orders issued from Central Command were lost, ignored, or countermanded by someone down the line who thought they had a better idea. Cargo planes were filled with the wrong equipment. Commercial airlines landed at empty airfields, while soldiers stood waiting for planes that never arrived.
See, just like that. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you.
With a simple list of priorities.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank
He
you.
wanted fighting men and tank-killing aircraft, with the AH-64 Apache helicopter and the A-10 Thunderbolt in theater. Saddam's offensive options would narrow considerably. Schwarzkopf
I'll show you the final.
Air Force feathers. The A-10 was an aircraft that might well have been destined for the scrap heap had not Iraq invaded Kuwait. The Air Force ultimately scorned the aircraft, which is ugly and asymmetrical. Pilots call it Warthog rather than Thunderbolt. The real problem, however, is that the A-10 specializes in a mission that the Air Force would prefer not to have: close air support. As hostilities broke out in the Gulf, the Air Force was planning to mothball the entire A-10 fleet. But Schwarzkopf, concerned about the troops on the ground, needed a tank killer. Air Force appropriation priorities did not matter. The AH-64, on the other hand, is something of a pampered platform. As the Army's
This one.
premier combat aircraft, it is the most coveted assignment among helicopter pilots.
Just like that.
The Apache is highly maneuverable, equipped with sophisticated navigation and targeting gear, and sports.
You want to see the final?
Apaches were a
What I may
choice
make?
for another reason. They can be packed a half dozen at a time in a supplied cargo plane. By the end of August, the airlift was in full swing, with a plane touching down every 22 minutes. Pilots began to talk about an aluminum bridge between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. The scales finally began to shift in favor of the coalition. During World War II, the Desert Fox, Field Marshal Rommel, discovered an essential truth about
I want to shoot the final.
whoever controls
Yeah,
the
yeah.
skies
I want you.
controls the
Yeah, that's it.
troops on the ground.
I want to show you the final first.
You first have to define the goals that you wish to achieve.
See this one?
Towards any air campaign is the first job of any war, and that's seizing control of the air. In August, immediately after Iraq invaded Kuwait,
The bow.
Air Force General Chuck
See?
Warner sat down with a yellow pad and pencil. In a few hours, he outlined what would become the most effective air campaign in history. The plan would be fleshed out and finalized by air planners in Riyadh, but the basics in
But
Warner's
I
outline
taste
did not
the soup first.
January 15th, 1991. Saddam had until midnight to pull his forces out of Kuwait. He didn't budge. The world held its breath and waited. At 1:30 a.m. on
Not
January
too
17th,
salty, promise. This is
1991,
not too salty.
US warships
Just
in the
only
Persian Gulf
chicken
fired
broth
the first
or else
irrefutable shots of
chicken
Operation
nor
Desert
cubes
Storm.
or
Tomahawk cruise
bouillon.
missiles are essentially pilotless aircraft equipped with 1,000-pound warheads. Most of those fired at downtown Baghdad struck base facilities and military command centers, beginning the process of cutting Saddam Hussein off from his armies. Despite their high profile, the effectiveness of cruise missiles in the Gulf War has never been publicly established. The Department of Defense released thousands of pages of statistics about virtually every aspect of the war in the Persian Gulf. Yet about the cruise missiles, the Pentagon remained oddly silent. In its final report to Congress, the Department of Defense would say only that cruise missiles had a launch success rate of 98%. What percentage of Tomahawks hit and destroyed their targets remains classified. But there are clues that seem to indicate that cruise missiles weren't as effective as the public believes.
Small tin.
The General Accounting Office cited one post-war analysis that suggests that half the missiles never reached their intended targets. According to two different reports, cruise missiles that struck the Iraqi Air Defense Operations Center in Baghdad left only small craters in its roof. That's why 3/4 of all the missiles used in the Gulf were launched in the first 3 days of the war, and none were fired after February 1st. Even with shortened operations, the U.S. fired more than $380 million worth of cruise missiles at Iraq. 2:30 a.m. Saudi time, 10 stealth fighters slip out of Saudi airspace into Iraq. Silently,
I wash my hand first.
guide them through the half-hour flight to downtown Baghdad. Flying undetected over the city, a slight press of buttons on pilot control sticks delivers laser-guided bombs to crucial targets, early warning radar control centers, radio towers that form the nucleus of Saddam's communication network, and the Air Defense Headquarters. In a matter of minutes, the heart of Saddam's air defense is cut off. Stealth pilots surge through a lethal barrage of anti-aircraft artillery from below, but they keep their bombs on target. In only 15 minutes, they guide their invisible planes above the flat and head for home.
I have chicken
The
soup.
opening round had
I made the
gone
chicken
precisely
soup.
as planned.
Good.
The
Yeah,
F-117 stealth fighter was
Chicken
developed
soup. That's not promise. This is not too salty. Just only water and chicken. That's cool. Yeah.
Iraqi air defense didn't know they were under attack until the first bomb was hit. Both the DoD and the Air Force claimed that the stealth fighters hit their targets 80% of the time. The GAO took a close look at the statistic and discovered some interesting facts. First, there seems to be some question of what actually constituted a hit. Central Command relied almost exclusively on cockpit video for verification. The GAO found that for many of the stealth's credited hits, the video didn't exist, or the quality was so bad it was impossible to tell whether the target had been struck. In still other instances, the video was clear, but showed no impact at all. The GAO also noted that many of the reports of stealth hits also contained information indicating that the bomb had actually missed the target. Some fake reports paradoxically cited missed distances of up to 500 feet. All in all, the reports found that 1/3 of credited hits either could not be verified or had conflicting comments. When these are removed from the total claimed by the Pentagon, stealth success rate is reduced to 55%.
Haciendo planes es mejor.
What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Here are AARP top tips on caregiver preparedness during coronavirus. Form a team that can help with caregiving tasks. Take an inventory of essential supplies in your loved one's home. Make a list of the care recipient's medications. Schedule regular calls to fight isolation. Finally, take care of yourself too. Follow the Centers for Disease Control's guidelines for coronavirus safety. For more caregiving tips, go to aarp.org/caregiving.
From the outset, Central Command realized that air superiority would be essential to victory in the desert. To reach this goal, air planners formed strike packages, teams of aircraft, each with a specific role to play
Yep.
on a given mission. Sometimes numbering over 50 planes, strike packages have the same basic components. First are air-to-air fighters. Next come the wild weasels,
Yep.
whose job is to locate and knock out SAMs. These are followed by radar jammers. Behind the jammers come the strike aircraft, the punch of the packages. Pulling up the rear is another flight, each of wild weasels and air-to-air fighters. With as much as 5 miles between each group, a single strike package covers a huge piece of sky. Urgent Gulf pilots describe them as 40-mile-long
Perfume Classic, Leo. I do not know.
In a battle against the Iraqi
Yes.
Air Force,
So this is the final.
king of the hill was the F-15C. Capable of speeds in excess of
Really, that's the final.
and carrying both
So you can put the, the toasted garlic is that good.
are fast.
Tastes like good, like on a chicken.
They're also heavy.
So amping.
Upwards of 60,000
Thank you
pounds
guys.